So in my household, we have decided to kind of put our house on the market. Just kind of working through the thought process, and even as we're putting the house on the market, where we're going back and forth. Should we take it down? Should we put it up? Should we take it down? And certain things that are evident that are going to happen that continue to have me committed to the process, right? So for one, we're going to continue to get lower rates. Two, we're going to have increased taxes. Inflation is going to continue to eke upwards. All things that are on my mind. At the same time, we can expect that there's going to be a loss in terms of jobs. Many people are struggling right now, whether it's credit card debt or is with, their monthly payments, whether it's rent or whatever. We're in a difficult circumstance right now. So all of these things are things that I'm considering back and forth. And when I tried my best to convince myself to stay, I keep thinking of these things. I'm like, whether it's Kamala or it's President Trump, it's going to be a situation where a lot of money is printed. And as we saw back in 2020 or 2021, when you print that much money, there's going to be a lot of costs, and that's what we're living through right now, regardless. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, is it better right now to have a lot of cash on hand, be able to put that towards something right now? A lot of people are not buying with all the extra cash that you have. You could, put it down onto something that can potentially be an option, whether it's a smaller downsizing or something of that nature. But I think for sure that 2025 is going to be an interesting year. And for the most part, it's not looking great. Like the jobs report just came out yesterday, and it's 254,000. And as we've seen over the last year or so, all of them have been revised downwards, and just continues to be this feeling. Everybody I talk to, every single person that talks about it says there's this weird feeling that they have. It kind of feels like you're walking out onto a ledge and someone yanks the ground from underneath you. It's what it feels like, and you can't no one can really put their finger on exactly what it is, but everyone knows that it is something. And as we are here right now and seeing, what it is that is going to come in the coming years, a lot of people are just, um, you know, I have people in my life that I'm talking to, and they aren't totally convinced. And I'm looking around and I see things like AI. I see Amazon has recently called their return to office 5 days a week. And we know for a fact that the other tech firms are going to do that eventually as well. Many people are just waiting just for the election to be over for the most part. But, there's just a weird feeling right now around everything. You see what's going on in Florida, what's going on in North Carolina. Um, Although those are seem to be isolated situations, what's going to happen? People from Florida are going to start moving out of Florida. The cost of the insurance is outrageous. The cost of a lot of things is really crazy. So what people are going to do? They're going to move out of Florida. They're going to move into Georgia. So the many of those places that people are moving into, you're going to continue to have higher rates and higher costs of living in those areas. Many inner cities are being wind down, and as people are um, as people are leaving these inner cities, they're moving to the suburbs. As they're moving to the suburbs, it's going to continue to be something where the cost of those particular areas are continuing to rise. And as I'm sitting here right now, I'm we're looking at apartments, and have the nerve to put $7,000 for an apartment on their location. So it's an interesting place that we find ourselves as Americans for sure. One thing that I can say is that if it feels, you can't tell whether or not it's going to be a hyperinflation or it's going to be a depression. And if you are being honest, if you're looking at it yourself, you have conversations with your family. A lot of people are just saying, they don't know exactly what it is that's coming. And when we are trying to figure out what this next moment is going to entail, we're looking around and just taking just little bits from every which way to try to figure out what the answer is going to be. But for the most part, I'm betting on a depression, not depression, but definitely a recession. And going from there, it's going to be a difficult circumstance. So, my personal opinion, for our family, we have our home. We're going to be putting that on the market. It's been a back and forth between my wife and myself, but just continuing to focus on the idea, just get as skinny as we possibly can, lower our costs to as low as we possibly can, and it's not going to be pretty. Sometimes you may have to move an hour outside of your local area. We were in a metro area. The thoughts of moving 30 minutes, I'm like, maybe we should move an hour to an hour and a half where we can get our expenditures down to, $1,300, $1,400, something even lower than that, just to be in a defensive situation. My thought process is to start off with the idea, I'm going to be laid off, she's going to be laid off. And if that happens, you want to have as much cash as possible and as low of expenses as you can possibly have. And sure enough, nobody knows exactly what tomorrow's going to bring. But America right now is in a very difficult circumstance. We've let in 425,000 people around the world who've been convicted of some kind of crime. We're watching the murders that are going on all around the country. There's gang wars that's happening in Chicago. All of this things about Trende Aragua in Denver. There's just so much that just like that it has to be something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if you guys are feeling this, but there has to be something that happens. Like, it feels like the calm before a storm almost. Like you're sitting around and you're hearing the quiet and you're sitting around, you're like, you know everything that's lining up says that there should be a storm. And we're being told again and again everything is fine, and I don't feel that way at all. So I'm here preparing myself, and if I look stupid as a result of it, so be it. But every person who's in AI is telling you that it's going to be a serious issue for us as employees. Those who are in finance are telling you that things are difficult with banks, and credits are tightening. So yeah, there's just so much that's going on right now that I look at it. I'm like, it's better for us to prepare ourselves as best as possible. It's better for us to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because no one knows, and you don't want to be caught in a situation where you are overexposed, you get lost, you lose your job. Now all of a sudden your marriage, your finances, all of these things happen at once. The stock market crashes. Like, there's so many different things that it feels like they're coming. So make sure that we are preparing as best as possible. We've seen what happened with Verizon. You see what happened with Bank of America. Can you imagine you go to your bank account, you need to pay your rent, and all of a sudden your bank account says $0. You go to your landlord to tell them, hey, you know what, I have money in my account, but all of a sudden it says zero. There's people who are being placed in some difficult circumstances right now, and a lot of these things feel like test runs. People keep saying, and at some point they're going to send us back to the Stone Ages. So whether it's buying land outside of the city center, or if it's actually just finding somewhere where we can learn different skills. But there's going to be a time where we need to build and to prepare and to have these, like, these packs, these land, these spaces, for opportunities where we can live on the land. And the time is looks like it's drawing nearer and nearer, where either you learn now or you don't learn. And if you don't learn, then you're gonna have a serious problem on your hand, where you're in the middle of a city and all of a sudden you're dealing with the zombie apocalypse or something. People are going and they're having all of these purge type situations. you know Whether it's, we saw during 2020 how crazy things were, and how people were, you know somebody would die in a suburb, and people will go riot and burn down cities in Detroit. They'd go and rob a Walmart. Why does that make sense? But the mind of the people right now just doesn't really. We've lost some type of humanity, I think, for the most part here in America, and the rest of the world. I'm sure they're watching and they're looking at us like we're crazy. I saw something where somebody said that showing they were showing people in America and how they had to lock up the food items and lock up the groceries because people steal, and they couldn't believe that was happening in America. But unfortunately, it's kind of where we are right now. It's in this third world kind of environment. And sure enough, it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, before it gets better. We're still having millions of people who are crossing into the into the country. We still have, situations where there's um, war raging in Israel. You have Ukraine and everything else like that. These people who are in these military industrial complexes, they are enjoying themselves. They're basically taking our tax dollars, starting a war, and then paying themselves for the war that they started. You know what I mean? So the world we live in is a crazy place right now. But again, for those of you who are believers, we understand that there is a better thing to come. The God that we serve, He sure enough hears our cries. He sees what's going on, and nothing catches Him by surprise. So things will get better at some point, but we have to be able to survive these moments, regardless of what it is that's coming. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was something that related to some people, something that was able just to consider. But you know, as much as I'm hopeful, I'm also understand that we have to prepare. So, thank you so much for joining. Have a good day and have a blessed night.